Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, on this wonderful Wednesday morning. I believe it is April 29th. Could be wrong, but I think I'm right. Anyways, today we're going to finish up with our main equations about solving radicals and roots. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit different. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the visual aspect of them. But today we're only going to talk about the special cases of radicals that I feel deserve some attention. Now this is a little different from what we worked on previously, I believe. Now if you see it, we do have something underneath the radical, but that's an entire quadratic equation underneath the radical. Now, solving it looks differently, but it really isn't. If I want to figure out what these x's are equal to, or what the solutions for this equation, I obviously have to get rid of this radical. In order to do that, I have to square both sides. Because you know a square root and a square cancel each other out. So, x squared plus x minus 107 is equal to 7 squared, which would be 49. Now, at this point, it goes back to solving any normal quadratic equation. You have to get everything onto one side and either do the quadratic formula or do factoring. Or completing the square, but we don't talk about completing the square that much. So, I have x squared plus x. Now 107 minus 49, if I remember correctly, is a minus 156. And that's equal to 0. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you get to this point, quadratic formula will solve it without any problems. It would just take an incredibly long time. And so I do want to kind of shortcut it just for the sake of time. I need to figure out what two things multiply together to give you a negative 156 and add together to give you positive 1. Now, since you know that this 156 is negative, it has to be a positive and negative, because when you multiply a positive and a negative, you get a negative. And when you add them together, you get a positive x, which means it's a positive 1, which means they can only be 1 away from each other. Now, if you did take a calculator and break that down enough, you would understand that this, my two values, would be x minus 12 and x plus 13. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it has to be a minus 12 and a plus 13, because since this is a positive 1 here, your larger one has to be positive, and 12 times 13 will give you 156. At this stage, you just solve it like normal, set them both equal to 0, and say that, hey, minus 13 on both sides, x is equal to negative 13, and x is equal to a positive 12. Now you don't have to put the plus sign, but I just put the plus sign to emphasize that one's positive, one's negative. Alright, this one, excuse me, a little bit different. Please forgive me. I do need to get rid of this square root, but before I can get rid of the square root, I have to get rid of this minus 2. Now what's the opposite of a minus 2? Plus 2 to both sides. So that means I have a square root of x squared plus 8x minus 20 is equal to x plus 2. Now if I square that side, I have to square this side, which means I have to use my box method. And I'll just do my box method over here. You know what? I think I'll do this bottom one in blue, just easier, just to separate the two easier. So, and that's my cat here in the background. How you doing now, school? Pretty boy. Pretty boy, do you want to come over here? X times x is x squared. 2x, 2x, and then a positive 4. And so I have x squared plus 8x minus 20 is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 4. Mister, you don't want to come up here? Yes, we'll come up here. Anyways, it's not coming up here. If you subtract, since you have an x squared and just an x squared on both sides, if you subtract one from the other, they cancel out. So that leaves me with 8x minus 20 is equal to 4x plus 4. Now, I would recommend sending this 4x to that side by subtraction and sending that minus 20 to that side by addition. I'm going to do both those steps at once. And so 8x minus 4x gives me 4x, and 4 plus 20 gets me to be 24. And so 4x is equal to 24, divided by 4 on both sides. Don't know what that was about. Divide by 4 on both sides. X is equal to 6. So, depending on what you do and depending on what type of problems you have, you get one answer, like this one where you have a quadratic on both sides, or you could have 2 answers. Now, pause the video, work on this one on your own. You have a square root of x squared plus 8x minus 9 is equal to x minus 1. So, take just a moment. Our solutions should be, or our solution, since there's only one solution here, should be x is equal to 1. If you work on this one, you should have one thing you start on both sides. You have an x squared on both sides, leaving you with x squared plus 8x, and when you use your box method on the right, you should get x squared minus 2x plus 1, and then the x squareds cancel out, and when you add 2x to both sides, you get 10x minus 9 is equal to 1, or 10x is equal to 10, and x is equal to 1. Alright. Now I want to cover some special cases that look special, but go by incredibly quick. You might freak out and say, oh hey, what do I do here? Well, it's the same thing. I mean, you want to do a plus 12 and you want to do a divide by 4, but before you do anything, you have to square both sides. So that's going to be the same thing as 4x, because remember, square and square root cancel out, and 0 squared is just 0. You add 12 to both sides, 4x is equal to 12. And you divide by 4 on both sides, which means x is equal to 12 divided by 4, and that's 3. Now, oh hey, this is also a pretty intense problem. I have a square root on both sides. What do I do? Well, you do the same thing we've always been doing. You gotta get rid of the square root, so you square one side, and when you square one side, you have to square the other. I'm gonna write this one in red, because red is actually my favorite color. And I'll just cut a line, divide those two out, and so I've got 3x plus 8 is equal to negative 2x minus 2. You add 2x on both sides to get rid of this, and you subtract 8 on both sides to get rid of that, because when you're solving linear equations, you want all your variables on one side, and all your non-variables on the other. And so that's going to be 5x is equal to a negative 10, x is equal to a negative 2. Move to black. Now this one, what are you going to do? You can't square both sides immediately. You have to move this to the other side first. Or when I say this, I mean you have to use this, move that to the other side first, so you simply add it to both sides. X is equal to the square root of a 5x plus 14. You square both sides, which cancels out your square roots, which means x squared is equal to 5x plus 14. You move your 5x to the other side and your 14 to the other side by doing inverse operations. So that's going to be a minus 5x and a minus 14. And so you have an x squared minus 5x minus 14. And now, ladies and gentlemen, what two things multiply together to give you a negative 14 and add together to give you a negative 5? Well, the divisors of 14 are 1 and 14, 2 and 7. Well, 1 and 14 ain't going to add together to give you a negative 5, but a negative 7 and a positive 2 will. So that means this is going to be x minus 7 and x plus 2 is equal to 0. X is equal to a negative 2 and a positive 7. And that's your answers. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's wrap this up with one final check for understanding. Which one of these three do you think you're going to get? An equal 0, 2 radicals on both sides, or 1 that you have to move the radical to the other side and then solve? If you said B, you're right. So, ladies and gentlemen, take 5 seconds, figure out what your answer is, and I guess I wrote it over here. I did. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, your answer for this one should be a x is equal to 9. If you square both sides, you get rid of the square roots, because square root and square cancel each other out. So that leaves you with 10x is equal to a 4x plus 4. Move this 4x to the other side by subtracting 4x on both sides, and that gives you with a 6x minus 50 is equal to a 4. Well, you add 50 to both sides, and that is going to give you a 6x is equal to 54. And it's been a while since I've, done normal arithmetic. The last time I checked, you divide 54 by 6 on both sides. Well, let's not divide by that 6, let's divide by that one. And x is equal to 9, just like I said. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today's lesson. I want to try to keep these less than 15 minutes, because during all this crazy stuff that we have going on, putting anything really more than 15 minutes on to YouTube to say, hey, watch this and learn for more than 15 minutes, I think is a problem, so I want to try to keep them around 15 minutes. I'm going to see if my cat will allow me to pick her up. And this is Minerva again. She's a cute little girl. Minerva wishes you guys to have yourself a safe Wednesday, but a fun Wednesday. Stay inside, but learn and relax. Because if you stress about this stuff too much, it's just going to eat at you. Anyways, hope you guys have yourself a wonderful day.